All right, you heard the governor-elect of Osun State there. He's talking about various things, and he basically said his government will be a community-based and participatory government when he's sworn in.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have the assistant editor, the Nation newspaper, Dari Odufo-Okon, in the studio with us this morning. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And of course, Dr. John is still very much here. Good to see you again, Dr.
That's good to see you still.
Okay, let's begin with you, Dari. Did this rerun result come to you as a surprise?
I'll say no. I'll say no
Okay.
because I was out there in Osun to cover the election, the first ballot. And it was obvious right from the word go that this is a race between two parties, the APC, the ruling APC, and the PDP. And then very few people were left in doubt that either Oyetola or Adeleke will carry the day. But as the election went on, then the results started trickling in. It was a ding-dong affair. And we sat there at the INEC headquarters, and as the results were coming, it was one election I would declare as very, very competitive. The winner has emerged. APC won, but a lot of credit should also go to the frontline opposition party, the PDP, for giving the ruling party a good run for their money. And that is where I disagree with those who are protesting now, those who are alleging that the election was rigged, whatever. I think we should do this.
Talking about the rerun, that is.
The rerun, yes. We should do this. We should do this. Our democracy some good. We shouldn't always wait to see only the bad side of it. There is a very good side of what just happened in Osun.
And what is that?
The fact that election in Nigeria can actually be really, really competitive. That we can actually have elections that we will not be able to predict the winners days to the election. It appears that the days gone by in Nigeria when 3-4 months to an election, somebody will declare that's the likely winner to come to pass. This election, both parties, or even the SDP, Omishore's party, APC and PDP, went into the election head to head. And until the very last result was called Sunday morning, it was as if it could still go
either way.
And when it ended with inconclusive and a rerun was ordered, those who follow the election keenly and sincere and patriotic Nigerians shouldn't be surprised. They shouldn't be. I was not, because in every race there will be only one winner. Both parties did their own work well. Of course, naturally, and the usual things we see in our election, we are not perfect yet. There were hitches on the field. There were some discrepancies here and there.
Well, of course, we'll talk about all of those other issues.
So
that
both parties had their day.
Okay.
The majority now have their way.
All right, Doctor, let me come to you on this. It seemed like he said earlier on, it seemed like it was a two-horse race, but it had to take a third horse to determine who won between the two, making it a little more interesting than it would originally have been.
Yeah.
But let's come back even to the issue of the role of money here. We heard lots of reports of money playing a huge role in determining the overall outcome, even before the rerun now, as the case may be. In general, I'm trying to put it in general, the role of money in this general election, in Osun State.
Yes, I think it's even minimal compared to what I was thinking would actually take place. Because if you look at it very carefully, there's this little impact of the batches of salary that were paid just some weeks before the election. If not, it would have been worse, because Osun State, either we like it or not, is really very developed now when it comes to infrastructural development. The outgoing government has done a lot. But when it comes to poverty rating, I doubt whether they have actually been able to come out really very high. So, and the strategy of a professional politician remains that you continue to take advantage of the poverty of the people. So if you look at how poor the people are and the monies that were spent, quote unquote, on election, then for me, it's not even, it didn't even meet my expectation. I was expecting something higher. But again, until we solve the problem of, you see, of wishes, we love to wish for a good government, and we do not like to actually follow the due process, because the process is always very painful. Until we get to a point where the people can realize that most of the times it is not stomach that should direct them to the path of their destiny, but their future. We may continue to go back to the issue of money, and people will continue to take advantage of the politics, of the poverty of the people. But like he said, to a very, very agreeable point, I would say that the people actually tried. By, if you look at the result, in fact, I will not even say between PDP and APC.
But would you say that the people really owned this process, whether in the first, the September 22 election, or even the rerun? I mean, according to the Center for Democracy and Development, one of the observers, they actually, in their report, actually said that the rerun ran contrary to democratic norms and standards and best practices in the, conduct of credible elections.
And now if you look at...
And they seem to re-echo what so many other observers actually said, including journalists who covered the rerun.
Yes, I think the major challenge we had was the issue of denying people access to vote, denying some of the observers access to police centers and all that, which you understand, which were not good enough. But again, if somebody has ruled in a state for 8 years, and he has a candidate that is supporting, and the people at the end of the day still went to support another person to a certain reason. Even if you put the supplementary and every election together, I doubt whether the gap between the two major contenders is up to 500 votes. It showed that to a certain extent the people still own the process. It's the closest election result margin I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So the people still own the process to a certain extent. And like he said, I totally want to agree that the people should be jubilating for the fact that for the first time, I mean for the very first time, we can see our politicians running from pillar to post, trying to seek the vote of the people. Because now suddenly they now realize that either we like it or not, it is the vote of the people that will determine our fate. I think we are owning it. It may not be total, but we are growing.
Yeah, well, Dario, on the other hand, did you think, or collecting it from what he said now, when the earlier results were declared, or the election was declared inconclusive, we saw movements into Osun State from every part of the country. You know, we had governors moving in, Senate president moving in, other politicians moving in, and it seemed like it was an issue of personalities. They were going to meet certain persons to woo them here and woo them there, and not necessarily about the people, the door-to-door, meeting of people, engaging them who are originally have the ultimate power to make the change.
Yeah, well, we're talking about politics, a game of numbers. And, the rerun happened following the inability of either to, win
to
in
have
the
a
first
clear
ballot.
victory.
The rerun was called for some 3 days later. What you saw is actually the power of lobbying. At that point in time, the time to campaign was too short to go door to door. The rerun was not happening in just a ward. It's still scattered across the state in some way, 7 units across the state. And then in politics, there are people who call opinion molders, political canvassers. And these people also have people they defer to. In this case, you saw PDP, APC running to Ife and Osogbo to meet Anomishore.
Yeah.
Who obviously, for example, one of the places where the highest number of votes was returned in the rerun is Olode, where his father was the traditional ruler.
Yes.
Is stronghold. And in the first ballot, before the cancellations, there were votes returned in spite of the crisis that happened there. Everybody could see who won, who did best in that in those areas. So seriously, what needed to be done was talk to those who control the voters, or who has the ears of the voters. And I'm sure he happens to be the man.
It almost seems
in that
unfair,
area.
really, to actually say that this was a two-horse race. Come to think of it, I mean, for 255, 254 both ways, right?
Yeah.
And the third horse, according to
Yeah,
you,
the third
scored 124,000. You might
but
want to say that it's a three-horse race, but let's bring in, we have somebody else joining us from Osun. He's a media and policy consultant, Komi Ademiluyi. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Ngozi.
Yes, great. What do you think played out in this rerun that has led to this outcome, the final outcome that we have now?
Yeah, I think most people were rather surprised that there would be a rerun, but given the tendency of Nigerian elections to have hitches and glitches, it wasn't surprised. I mean, basically, I was expecting the result because if you did a polling unit by polling unit analysis of the rerun, you'll see that in the Ife North and South, APC actually won there, and the SDP came second and make a very good showing. So technically, I think one was expecting that in those units in Ife North and South, that the APC would be able to be ahead. And if you looked at the Orolu in, just outside Osogbo in the rural areas, the strength of Lasso Yusuf, who, although he was a bit dissatisfied, had come back into full swing. One had expected that he would be able to swing that place. I wasn't really surprised. It was a close run thing. But, you know, this was not a normal two-party election that I suppose we are used to, a normal APC, PDP election. This was a fragmented vote. A lot replicating, there's similarities in a way to the governorship election in Oyo State in 2015, where Governor Ajimobi won with 32.7% of the vote. So I think a lot of people were looking at the election from the lexus of the normal two-party APC versus PDP. The votes were fragmented, but as far as the rerun was concerned, it very much met, I think, what was a conventional wisdom expectation that there would be a narrow win for the APC.
All right, Komi, let me stay with you on this. When it was time, days to the rerun election, everyone seemed to be moving towards looking the way of Iyolomisiri of the SDP. In fact, he was called the beautiful bride by everyone. And he came out to say that, well, I've spoken to PDP, I've spoken to APC, and I've given them my demand and all of that. Can you share with us basically what could have led to him giving his support to the APC?
Yeah. Well, my own interpretation when we started with the Senate President, seeing him in Ife, I was actually wondering, because the SDP, I mean, Obishore himself, as the fulcrum of the SDP in this election, had made it clear that he wanted not just the typical sharing of posts that we are used to in this country. He actually wanted an alliance based on a program, which is a positive departure from what we've been used to, where politics is all about booty sharing and share. And if you look at the debate that took place on channels television, and if you look at the manifesto of the SDP itself, it is clear that their manifesto, reflecting the name Social Democratic Party, was actually closer to the position that the APC and its governorship candidate, Boyega Oyetola, ran than with the PDP. Now, if they said that they were going to have an alliance not based on the sharing of posts, but based on an alliance, a program of progressive unity, then I think I wasn't really surprised that at the end of the day, he decided to pitch his tent with an APC that had much more to do with the program of the SDP than with the program of the PDP. I suppose if you are just talking about the usual sharing of posts and that sort of thing, obviously the PDP would have been more natural. But I think it's a positive development that we're actually moving away from this tenets of government being about booty sharing, and we're now going into a nexus where we're talking about alliances based on programs.
Okay, right, Kwame, we'll come back to you. Dari, do you agree this alliance based on the programs, you know, that will affect the people and not necessarily about sharing of positions, according to Kwame there, and so it signals progress for our democracy, whether it's in Osun or what we can even look forward to come 2019. But I'm just thinking, what do you think will be running in the minds of the followers or supporters of Omishore, for example? Do you think they would have felt betrayed by his alliance with the APC?
No. Why one may not be able to speak for them. But looking at what happened and what Omishore did, I go with Kwame. That's quite in the right direction for our democracy. There are too many takeaways from the Osun election. If only our policy...
Takeaways like you cannot take the electorate for
granted? For granted, no more. Okay. Takeaways like that the parties cannot assume to know where the pendulum will swing at all time. Yeah. Takeaways like you can no longer predict what the average politician will negotiate with. Omishore just showed us that. He said, I've looked at my programs and that of the APC. Yes. If they will inculcate some of the things I set out to do, I'll be comfortable with them. And probably they came to an agreement. And so that's a good thing. Talking about his followers, I think he must have consulted at least the leadership of his group before taking such decision.
And the leadership of his group now, in what sense? Because you had an Olufalaye actually distance himself from that alliance.
Olufalaye is not from Osun State. Omishore had his political group over the years. He was in PDP. Some things happened, he had to leave. He needed a platform to actualize his gubernatorial ambition. He moved into the SDP. And his movement into the SDP naturally swallowed whatever the SDP was before his coming. And he symbolized the SDP up till the day of that rerun.
If you say he swallowed what the SDP, are you saying that he was bigger than the party in that case?
His movement, his group was bigger than in terms of quality and quantity, was bigger than what the SDP was in Osun. That's something we cannot run away from.
Yeah, but if that is the case, Dari, if that is the case, yes, then why would he not float his own political party? Because if you're talking about any structure or any individual being bigger than the political party, then he should form his own political party.
He wouldn't have formed his political party at that time. The process of forming political party, we all know. The time was close to the election. What I'm trying to explain here is, without an Omishore, SDP in Osun, they will not have polled the kind of votes they got.
Okay,
he brought his influence
it was more about
the party.
More about the individual than the party.
Now, talking about Falai and others distancing themselves from it's understandable that Omishore at that time needed to decide based on his interest first in Osun State than the national leadership of the party's interest about building a bigger party. He needed to look at the interest. He explained that he cannot fathom how PDP's manifesto would translate into better lives for his people. Okay. But his own desire to better the lot of his people can most likely be taken care of by what APC is offering, if they will take part of his own agenda into consideration. With that, he decided for his people, not for the party.
We'll come back to this. Dr. Before I come to you, let me go to Kwame before I come back to you. Kwame, as it is right now, we have a governor-elect in the state, as it is from yesterday, from that declaration. Looking at the peculiarity of Osun State, what do you think will be the priority for him when he called the new governor-elect of Osun State?
Well, I think you have to, I think as far as Osun State is concerned, it's really looking like a case of comment the moment, comment the man. I think if you look at in terms of priorities, of course, I think it has to be to continue the clear progressive positions that we have seen in this state in the last 8 years. In terms of, they have to really, I think there's a consensus that the social intervention programs, like the school feeding programs, the trust in infrastructural developments have to continue. Luckily, the person coming in is more of a technocrat than a politician, which is probably what we need as we transit. It's like the transition from Asiwaju Tinubu to Fashola, then to Ambode. I think the priority really now has to be on strengthening the ship in terms of the economy. Luckily, a lot of our debts now are going to be transited within the next couple of years, which will give him at least a breathing space. I think the macroeconomic situation nationally would still be turbulent, but the key thing about Oyetola is that he has a proven management capacity to steady the ship, but he has to really focus on the economy. I think the issue of the cost of the machine, the machinery of the government will be very key, how to balance slimming down on costs without running into political problems.
Dr. Onjo, I wonder how much breathing space Gboyega Oyetola will have as governor. There's a debt overhang of about 143 billion naira. Of course, the outgoing governor did say that by 2019 those debts will be cleared, and then you'll have governance take off in full swing. Yeah. How much, to what extent do you think Oyetola can actually, carry on with some of the successes of Naregbe-Shola, for example, the, strides in education, for example, infrastructure development, which you pointed out earlier, and yeah, exactly.
I think for him to succeed, in all fairness, and I'm talking from leadership point of view, it has to do maintenance first. Maintenance of life and maintenance of infrastructure. Naregbe-Shola is an ambitious man. For me, I think for now, they need to repair the mind of an average people in Osun State so that they will be able to fully enjoy the infrastructure they have on ground. We do not need a man that is as ambitious as Naregbe-Shola when it comes to infrastructural development. If
really?
They really, I'm telling you the truth.
I wonder why you say that.
If they really want to move from where they are now to where they are supposed to be, the major challenge we have in Osun State now has to do with economic situation, the poverty of the people. And how do you cure that? There have been a lot of investment that have gone into infrastructure development in the last 8 years of Naregbe-Shola. So the man that is supposed to take over from him should be a man that will understand how to really balance the availability of the infrastructure with how the people can actually enjoy the benefit of the infrastructure. So it's not about building roads now. As we speak, it's not about building new schools. I think the first focus now...
Those are things that will improve...
Exactly.
Based
on the multiplier effect.
Exactly.
What is the multiplier effect in Nigeria? I am asking.
Dr. Onjo, sorry, let me throw this in. The National Bureau of Statistics actually, in comparing Osun with all the other 36 states, actually says that Osun has fared much better in terms of the poverty, index than other states.
When you compare the poverty index with the debt of the state, then I doubt whether we'll have the same result. What I'm pointing out in essence is this. Let the focus of the incoming governor not be that, let the focus of the incoming governor not be that, I want to surpass this man in terms of infrastructure. The first thing should be to balance the availability of infrastructure with the living standard of an average Osun person. There's no how, I spent about 8 years in Osun State, and I understand the politics of the people. Now there's no how you want to tell me that from the time that they started owing salary to now, that they have fared well as a people. They have not, because it's a civil servant-oriented state.
So what you're saying in effect is that the social intervention programs should be the priority.
Okay. But he has the OFEED program. one would say that's really an ambitious program, but it's working.
Yeah, and the school
And
intervention
exactly, the school
programs
intervention,
I think
where you have
this
some
is
of the
what-
mega schools he built,
Like,
they're
want
really
to-
naturally ambitious.
I want
but
to
they're
agree with
working.
you
Okay.
when you said, you quoted statistics there
Yes.
that said Osun people have actually fared better than some other states in area, even in area of poverty rates and all that. You see, I want to disagree a bit that Oyetola will have to slow down building. I want to seriously disagree. In fact, in my opinion, you call for balance. For him to balance the situation in Osun, the Osun I saw, he needs to build in the hinterland now. He needs to increase government presence in the rural areas.
Away from Oshogbo.
Away from Oshogbo. APC did very well in Oshogbo and environs. Check the votes. That naturally, because the concentration was in Oshogbo. You're talking about salaries not being paid. It should be the civil servant who should vote against APC. The civil servants are concentrated in Oshogbo. APC won in Oshogbo. My deduction is this. Perhaps the people felt, yes, we are seeing government presence in the buildings, in the infrastructural development. We can cope. We can understand with this administration why we were being held. Otherwise, APC should not have won the way it did in Oshogbo. Now, going to the hinterland, going to areas where APC didn't perform very well, government presence is yet to be felt the way it has been felt in Oshogbo. So for Oyetola coming, I listened to him just now, and he said it himself, that it will no longer be urban development, but rural urban development. He got it right in there. There are many areas of the state that needs attention. Now, that is not to say he should not sit down and look at how the issues of social amenities, social intervention should be met. Salary issues, yes. He will have to put on his thinking cap and find how he will do better than Aregbesola did.
Yeah.
But a clear understanding of the salary issues, salary and pension issues in Osun even showed that Aregbesola, being the manager he is, managed the situation in such a way that the majority of the workers could understand him while covering
In
the
a
election.
modulated manner.
In a
Let's take
modulated
it to Komi Demilui,
modulated
who is in Osun.
All right, Komi, let me ask you this before we let you go. Now, a lot of persons certainly, Osun is not the only state that have little challenges here and there when it comes to funds and all of that. And one would say, before to carry out any social program or any infrastructural program, it boils down to money. What can likely be the challenges that the new governor is going to face, seeing that Osun State is basically a civil service state and, let's say, farmers here and there?
Well, I mean, the key point actually that one of your panelists has already made is that we are virtually transiting out of the debt payment. That would be a great help. But, you know, there is also the problem, Ngozi, that we are in a defective federalism. And any governor of a state is actually fighting with one hand tied behind his back. And I think that we have to really look at, to help people like Oyetola, who is very competent, how to begin to transfer a lot of powers back, devolve back into the federating units, the states. I think that this is a very clear issue that will have to start from about 2019 to 2023. Because no matter how seminal a state governor is, we're in a quasi-federalism. I think that, and this is where you really have to praise the outgoing governor, Aregbesola, that in spite of all the macroeconomic difficulties at the center, the poverty levels here are still one of the lowest in this country. And in spite of all the criticisms that has come to him, if you compare Osun and its own particular problems, the state in terms of poverty levels and also in terms of giving an adequate living wage, I think has done far, far better than the media has actually given it credit for.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there with you. Thank you very much, Komi Ademiluyi, there, speaking to us from Osun. Well, Ilerioluwa has carried the day. That's the promise of the
Promise of
Gboyega Oyetola incoming administration. Thank you very much, Dari Odufokon, Assistant Editor, The Nation Newspapers, and of course, Dr. John, Leadership Consultant and Communications Consultant there. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you so much.